Okay, welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Byrne. Evan, how we doing?
Doing well. Bucks are on a little win streak, so it's always good to see a week go by with a couple wins that they needed.
Yep. Yep, the Milwaukee this week went 4-0 with wins
hmm
against I'm just kidding. Wins
we
against
got
Charlotte,
hmm
Orlando, Sacramento, and Dallas. Um, so let's just get right into the games. First up was a game last week against Orlando. Evan, this was what I like to call the other guys game. Um, Not all five starters played. Giannis was out.
hmm
Drew was out. Brooke, I believe, was out.
Yep.
Uh,
Brooke did play. He was the only starter.
okay, yeah, Brooke was the only
Brooke and
starter, but
Grayson
Chris
played, and
Chris
then the
played.
big three were out. Yep.
So able to knock off the Magic. So Evan, my question to you: what were your takeaways from this game?
The was that the Hornets game?
Yeah,
The
the
first
Hornets
one.
game. The all five starters were
Yep.
I have it listed here as Bobby Portis, Jordan Nora, Brooke Lopez, Javon Carter, and Grayson Allen.
Yes. So we recorded last Saturday, then they played that Saturday night. This was one of the games where even though I think the with the big three out for the Bucks, I still thought this was a game where they should have won, and they did end up winning. It was close for a while. I think a lot of the shots were just going back and forth up until a Bucks late run. But I felt overall they looked pretty solid, especially Bobby, Jordan and Brooke and Javon in the starting lineup. I think they all scored decently, where it felt like they were comfortable without having to play with Drew, Chris, and Giannis. But I would say overall it was a pretty decent game for them shooting, just kind of getting out there, playing with themselves, and just not having to worry about the pressure with some of the other guys out there on the court.
No, and I agree with you. And look, I always love seeing the other guys play. You with especially Thanasis because Thanasis
Mhm.
never gets in. And your guy Mamu got in, and he's
Yep.
been in a few games this year. But look, I think one of the noteworthy stats for this game was the fact that Brooke Lopez had 6 blocks.
hmm
Um,
And no one's talking about it either. I feel like he gets some blocks where he has more blocks than points at times, and I just feel like so many people are just not looking at that. But we'll take it.
we'll take it. And the 22 turnovers was a little high.
hmm
It was a little high for especially for the culprits of those turnovers. You had four from George Hill and Javon Carter and Brooke had three apiece, and
Yeah, it
Bobby
was
too. So,
primarily from the guards.
so I was like, so the most experienced guys on our team have the most amount of turnovers.
hmm
Um, and again, look, Orlando has a young nucleus there. And you saw Paulo Banchero. Yeah, he had a good game. He had 16. So um, 16 or 20, whatever it was. But look, it's just good to see the other guys play.
Uh huh.
And also, no one's talked about this yet. AJ Green chipped in 12 points on 4-6 from the field.
Yes, I was for which game?
Oh,
Saturday
against
night game.
the Hornets. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. I think it was nice that he has been getting some minutes.
Oh, wait. Wait. I'm sorry. You know what? I misread that in my notes. That's the next game that we're going to talk about. But
Yes,
in the game against Charlotte, they held them to
still
5
had
of
8 points.
24 from the field. Yeah,
Yep.
sorry. Notes.
So even game or two apart, he still is doing well, and I really like that he's getting some minutes, even with um the big guys playing like Giannis, Drew, and Chris. He'll still get some minutes here or there, and I think it's nice just because he's a shooter. He can get some shots up. Obviously, he's not going to be playing huge minutes, but I like his contribution that he's had for those minutes that he has been playing. Played 13 minutes against the Hornets, which makes sense just because of the guys who were out, including Wesley and Joe Ingles and Marjan, besides the main starters. So it's always nice to see him play, and I'm glad he's being able to hit some of the shots that he's getting.
Um, for this one, I forgot to pull the video up, but for the other noteworthy thing that happened against the Hornets is
Yeah, I
that
think I know what you're going to mention.
Thanasis received
Uh
the
huh.
softest tech ever. Um, If you don't know, Thanasis got a defensive stop at the end of the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Spiked the ball down, gets a technical foul. I mean, look, by the letter of the law, yes, it is a technical
Mm-hmm.
this season. And even the NBA officials like put out a tweet that says these are the following things that it's going to be that you're going to get a technical foul for. Apparently, slamming the ball down after a defensive stop, apparently that warrants a technical foul, which I think is dumb.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's not like they're taking the ball and slamming it as hard as they can, and the ball goes 30 feet in the air. It's like one of the where like you throw it and then you catch it immediately, where it's like a frustration. But it's, I feel like there should be like a difference between like the ball slam. I don't know, but
there absolutely should be, and like context matters in these situations.
yep. And
And,
it's annoying when it's like a good play and you know you made a good play and you're being punished for that play.
like I also don't like it. Apparently, this is going to be a tech this year where ref calls a foul, guy runs all the way to the end of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, that's a technical now.
Yep, because I just remember like the Bucks doing that in the finals when they got some bad plays. Bobby would like full out sprint to the other side of the court. So I feel like over the past few years, it's slowly been like becoming a technical here or there, but and now it looks more finalized than it was a few years ago.
And it sucks because essentially what the NBA officials are saying, it's like, look, we're on some moments we're going to be bad. Okay,
Hmm.
you just need to accept that. Okay, we're not going to take any responsibility. So here we'll just pull out this memo of all the things that NBA players shouldn't do to show up the officiating. Well, I mean, if the NBA officiating weren't so bad, okay, maybe the players wouldn't feel the need to react the way that they do.
Hmm. Obviously, you're still gonna have it here or there, but there's I don't know. It just gets annoying sometimes when like seeing like what's an actual technical, and then you go back a couple years ago, or even like in the early 2010s of what guys are doing that would get them a technical, and it's absurd. Jason Tatum, I know, got one a few weeks ago, and all he did was just like clap to himself, and he got a technical. And oh, I don't know. It's annoying. And it's
So
frustrating for the players too to be punished for some of these, and they have to pay money for it too.
I know.
And obviously they have lots of money, but it's still like an annoyance type of money where it's I have to pay this because this person screwed up.
Yeah, so last week Bucks able to knock off the Hornets. Moving on, last Monday, Milwaukee played against Orlando. Okay, I
Yes,
think I just confused the two. I think I just confused the two franchises. That's what happened. They're pretty close in proximity. So
they
yeah,
are. They are.
and color scheme similar. So so knocked off the Magic 109 to 102. Kind of a split other guys game because Giannis and Chris Middleton were back, but Brook
Yep.
Lopez didn't play. Jordan Nora obviously got the start. So a couple of things here. So Giannis put on a ridiculous performance,
Hmm.
34 points in 33 minutes. What do you make of Milwaukee's performance against Orlando?
It was very iffy not going into the game, but as they were playing it, because again, the Magic is one of those teams where they should just be able to beat. Without like issues, I would say the biggest takeaway is the Magic starters. They had the Wagner brothers had 25 and 19. Mo Wagner had 12 rebounds. Markel Fultz had a good game shooting. He had 20 points. Paolo had 20 points. The only person starter who didn't do well was Bol, which kind of surprised me because he's been having a really good year so far. But I think the Bucks' biggest struggle was the starters for the Magic. They were shooting and they were out rebounding them. Paolo and Mo Wagner were out rebounding them tremendously, both combining for 24 rebounds. And it just seemed like they weren't going away at times where I never felt like, okay, like this is where the Bucks are gonna like break away, and then it never happened. So that was their biggest struggle, especially later in the game when they weren't getting rebounds that they should have been getting. A lot of offensive rebounds are going back to the Magic.
Yeah, looking at the stats right now, 15 offensive rebounds for the Magic.
Yep.
Um, Milwaukee had 17 turnovers, but there just wasn't whole lot of good performances all around. Chris Middleton, 5 points, 1 of 11 shooting.
Yep.
Probably the worst performance you could have all season.
Yep, I would
But
agree.
again, that was his third game back at that point.
Hmm.
No, what else? Who else? Let's see.
I was
They did hold Orlando to 8 of 32 from three.
Yes, which was good because the Bucks also weren't doing that well at the three for that game, so it was kind of helping that if the Bucks were off, it was nice to see that the Magic were also off and essentially doing a little bit worse. Bucks shot 8 more but made 5 more, so roughly around the same. But yeah, it was a very off shooting game for a lot of the teams until later in the game.
And as I accidentally mentioned in our last recap game against Charlotte, AJ Green chipped in 12 points from 4 of 6 off the bench.
Yes, and that was his new career high. He only had the 12 points. He didn't have a rebound, didn't have assist, had a couple fouls, but he's just a good spot up shooter. He's not really like going after. He's not running the ball. He's not playing down the paint. He's if you're open, pass it to him, and he'll most likely make it as of recently. But yeah, he played pretty solid. Only had 10 minutes, but 12 points in 10 minutes for him is a pretty solid game, I would say overall.
I want to see him play more.
I do too, and I
I
think he deserves to play a little bit more too. And I really want Sandro to play a little more, but he had a better game against the Magic, but only 8 points in 23 minutes. Like it's always the scoring type of if he's playing that long, he should be consistently getting, I would say, at least 10 minutes or 10 points based off of his productivity. But overall, it's a good game for the guys who don't get to play as much.
For Sandro, do you feel like sometimes you're just kind of like out there? Because like when I watch him play, it just feels like he he doesn't make as big of an impact as much as like Brooke and Bobby does, which I don't think
Hmm.
that's fair to label on him. But like I don't know, sometimes like when I really watch Sandro play, I'm like, this guy's just kind of out here. Like
Hmm.
he's just a really just tall guy out here. I know he can shoot. Um, ball handling, I don't think he's the greatest at, but I don't know. Like it kind of does make a little sense why he's stuck behind the depth chart because
Hmm.
guys like Brooke and Bobby can make an impact on the game, no doubt. And Mamu, like he can shoot the basketball, but other than that, I don't know. Defensively, which Bud you really need to play great defense for Bud to get
Uh
like
huh.
consistent minutes under him. So I just want to know what impact does Sandro make defensively?
I think he's like with the lack of playing time he's gotten the last, obviously this season, last year, in his rookie year. I feel like he hasn't really found his role on the team. Because like you described Bobby and Brooke, and I feel like he's trying to do like a little bit of both of them. He's a good shooter like Brooke, but then he's also trying to get down in the paint like Bobby does. And I feel like for his sake, maybe finding or just picking one of those to do. And for me, I would push him out towards like the shooting aspect, like a Brook aspect instead of Bobby. I don't think he's a big guy to be down in the paint, but I don't think he's a physical guy like Bobby would be that um kind of board crasher than like Bobby is. But I agree. I really like him too, but I don't think he knows as much what he's supposed to be doing than a lot of the other guys are, knowing their role when getting that time to play. So maybe figuring out more of what he should be doing or an overall aspect of stay around here, don't go down here, or vice versa. But I would agree. I think he's a little lost, and it sucks because he doesn't get a lot of playing time, and when he does, he's unsure of some of his role playing on the actual court.
Which by the way, is totally fine because this is why the NBA has guys who are 12th and 13th guys off the bench.
Hmm.
It's not that they're not talented; it's just that they're not NBA wise as good as the people in the NBA who get
Hmm.
minutes. Um, but they're but they see like the starters like every day, so
Yep.
they know how to play, they know how to shoot, stuff like that. it's just when you watch an NBA game, like I don't know if you really want to see the 13th or 14th guy get consistent minutes
Hmm.
because then one of two things: either your team sucks or you're just trying to go for a number one overall pick.
Yep.
Because while it'd be fun to see all those guys get consistent minutes,
Hmm.
if I see those guys in like every game, I'm just like, when you
That's not
want
what people want to go out and see
no,
if you're a Bucks fan.
no, and I feel slightly bad when people show up to a Bucks game and Giannis isn't playing, Drew isn't playing,
Yep,
Brooke isn't
I've had
playing,
that
Chris
before
isn't
too.
playing. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's not a fun game because it's like because then you're basically just expecting your team to get killed.
Yes.
And now look, I've watched one of those Bucks games where they've done really, really well.
Hmm.
Um, but look, I love Thanasis. I don't want to see him in the starting lineup. Like
No, I
and
don't
that's
either.
just me.
Uh-huh.
And that's just me because you know outside of like one thunderous dunk over someone,
Hmm.
I don't know how much value Thanasis brings to the team other than being related to Giannis.
Hmm.
That's all I'm saying.
And yeah, he's that fun energy guy, but again, it's when you think outside the sport of basketball and just all sports in general, it's a business and you got to do what you have to do to bring people in. And when you already have the tickets and then you hear Giannis is out for left soreness and
Yeah.
Chris has a non-COVID illness, and it's like, okay, well now they're just once one guy goes out, then everyone else goes out, and it's frustrating. But I agree with the Sandro take and hoping they can obviously develop in it. Some of these guys where it's they do so well in the G League, like Sandro consistently puts up 25 to 30 points with ease in on the herd. But then again, when he gets up here, he's getting maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 points. So it's the difference in talent. And there's a lot of good guys in the G League, but obviously that's a whole different story of what the NBA actually is. But I hope he can figure out his ways, or maybe develop more in the herd before he like actually gets more consistent minutes. Again, he's not going to just come out of nowhere and be like the eighth man. It's not going to happen, but
No.
um, we'll see with him. But agree so far with his take and AJ
Yeah.
Green. And I'm just glad one of those guys are being able to kind of show his role and just be confident with his shots when getting the time to play.
Yeah. So next game up, Milwaukee knocked off the upstart Kings,
Hmm.
126 to 113. Not really too much to glean from this game, I guess. I don't like. So here's what I watched, okay? Because obviously Evan was at the game.
Yep.
Um, really tough start to the game. Got down early, 10-2. Milwaukee was able to pick it up a little bit, and obviously took the game running away in the second half.
Yep.
Giannis, another ridiculous performance, 35 points in 33 minutes. Even Drew Holiday, 31 points, 12 and 23 shooting, and held De'Aaron Fox to 15 points on 5 of 16 shooting. So you're at the game. What did you see from the Bucks' performance against the Kings on Wednesday night?
The Bucks started out like super slow. I think they went down 8-0 to begin, and then they went on a run where they were able to go up. And then the Kings slowly came back. Obviously, looking at the first half, the Bucks scored 68 points, but still gave up just as much as they scored. So it was very non. There was not a lot of defense being played. It was just at one point every single person was hitting their shots back and forth for like 5 or 6 possessions. Sabonis kept getting right into the paint and tossing in a floater, or Harrison Barnes was hitting a shot. It felt like it was consistent for both teams. Then when you get to the third quarter, the Kings kind of took away a little bit, and then it just led to the Bucks dominating the Kings in the fourth. Giannis finally picked it up. He was scoring quite a bit in the first half, and then all of a sudden he had his 30, because I think he had 21 going into the third, but he was just able to quickly take over. Drew Holiday was hitting a lot of the shots, getting over 30 as well. So it took a little bit, But eventually the Kings, I think, slowed down and the Bucks were able to just capitalize it because they weren't slowing down, which was going to happen to one of those teams, and it just happened to be the Kings.
Yeah, Sacramento, as I look at the roster, I'm so right now the Kings are right now 13-10.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like they're the young cute story right now.
Yes.
The media darling because oh my god, Sacramento hasn't made the playoffs in 16 years.
Uh-huh.
One of the longest playoff droughts in professional sports. You know, they're a cute 2 month a year story, I guess, but I'm not really sure how good this team is. Like, yeah, I mean they're fighting over 500 and they have good building blocks with Fox and Sabonis and Harrison Barnes. Even I want to drop the Malik Monk in there. He's pretty solid, but even Keegan Murray. But outside of that, I don't know how good Sacramento really is. You know, they got a defensive-minded coach in Mike Brown.
Mm-hmm.
But Sacramento, I don't know. They just and look, they'll win this against the Bucks at 5-0. I'm just wondering how good this team really is.
Yeah, and I really like the Kings. I think they're like the Western Conference team I'll usually cheer for, but obviously when the Bucks play, I want them to destroy them. But I think they're building up a really good team overall, and I think one of the biggest struggles for the Kings was getting rid of Tyrese Halliburton. Obviously they got Domantas Sabonis in that trade, but I think that was a hard loss on like the guard aspect. But I think they're at most a play-in team. I don't see them getting a top 8 seed, especially with how some of the Western Conference teams are playing. And I think getting a play-in game would be huge for them. But yeah, a lot of their guys are just not as overwhelming as some of the other teams are in the West. I think Kevin Huerter was a really good pickup for them coming from the Hawks. I think he's doing a lot better on the Kings than he was on the Hawks, now being a starter for them, for the Kings, and kind of starting here or there with the Hawks. But I don't. They're kind of I don't see it as much of going too far. They have some really good talent. I really enjoy watching them play. Some of their guys that typically do score, like Davion Mitchell, didn't do as well or in his 20 minutes. So again, I'll see them being a couple games over 500, but I don't see them getting the top 8. But I agree with your takes where they got some guys, but they're not extremely overwhelming. Kind of similar to the Cavs. A couple more losses than the Cavs do, but they're a lot heavier on the starters than they are on their bench.
And the other noteworthy thing was Milwaukee had 17 offensive rebounds, six from Brook Lopez. Really outside of the offensive rebound aspect of this game, like there wasn't too many things that really jumped out at me. Turnovers, I believe, were low.
Yes. Bucks only had 7. Giannis had 3. Bobby had 2, and then ones from a couple others.
So when you get a game like that, like the team is generally going to win when you have a single-digit turnovers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really anyone's game until the fourth quarter when the Bucks scored 29 and they only held them to 19, where it was anyone's game up until that part of the game. So Kings aren't bad.
No.
But I think it's the finishing aspect of who is going to just pull out at the end.
I mean, look, they got Matthew Dellavedova.
Mm-hmm. I forgot that he was on that team. I knew he was at the start of the season, but then I saw him on the bench. I'm like, oh yeah, they have Dellavedova. And it was funny because in like a lot of the timeouts, he would pick up like the game ball and would start like dribbling, like doing handles and like going like back and forth as if he's going in, and then he would just sit right back down right at the end of the bench with the shirt on, just ready to get his time. But Alex Len too on that team. Forgot he was even in the NBA.
I don't really miss Delly.
No, I liked his run with the Bucks, but it's not like I'm crying every night because they got rid of him when they did.
Why would he? Here's the thing. Here's the one thing I don't understand about Delhi. Why was it when he was like 25, 30 feet from the basket, he'd always try to back the guy down? Like
Mhm.
it was the same move every time. Like he would run down, he would try to post the guy up every single time, like 30 feet from the basket. I'm like, what is he doing?
Especially being the guard of the team.
I forgot if all box guards did that, but I thought Bledsoe did the same thing, but they would just like start trying to post a guy up like 30 feet from
Behind the 3-point line, just in case they get a floater from the top of the key.
Oh, glad Delhi's back in the league. In case you missed that aspect of it, Delhi had to miss a year or two from the NBA due to concussion like syndromes.
Yep, and then was playing in
Symptoms,
Australia
sorry.
for a little bit to kind of get back, but yep, signed with them this year.
Signed with them this year, so glad Delhi's back. Next game up, I thought the Bucks were gonna choke. Next game up was against the Dallas Mavericks. I thought the Bucks were gonna choke away another primetime game. You can't Bucks can't be disappointed for JJ Redick. They just can't.
No.
So they knocked off the Mavs 106 to 105.
Yep.
I mean, what do you want me to say? Okay, Luka Doncic basically did everything for that team. In that game, had 33 points, and really outside of that, they didn't have a whole lot of scoring. Really, if I had to summarize it in a couple sentences, is that Luka did everything, and the other Mavs players didn't step up. They went 10 of 24 from the line, which
we'll get to that.
we'll get to that. But I'm just gonna say it: if you shoot 10 of 24 from the line, I don't care how talented your team is, you're not winning any NBA game.
Which is what happened with the Bucks when they played the Sixers. I think that was almost their stat line, or that was like Giannis's like huge stat line where he was missing his free throws, and that essentially cost them the game. But this was a really interesting game, and it felt like a playoff game. And looking at like the box score and seeing like the quarters and like their scoring, it was pretty close at the half. Bucks had 52, and I think the Mavericks had, I think, maybe like 2 or 3 more points than them at the half. And then all of a sudden, here come the Mavs scoring 36 in the third, and the Bucks 21. And I didn't get to watch the first 3 quarters, but I was watching on my phone just like just the scores and just the updates. And I was like, okay, the Bucks are down 12. Like I'll put it away and try not to think about it. And then, I was just being a little nosy. I had some time and I saw that they kind of got back in it. So I started watching the fourth. And that was the biggest quarter, I think, of the entire season, like team wise, like playing together. And I really thought the Bucks were going to lose the game because of their fouls.
Yeah.
The Mavericks weren't hitting a field goal for the longest time, but they were still in it because the Bucks were fouling them. And again, that leads us to the end of the game with the fouls, because the Bucks, a lot of people were saying the refs were kind of like bad towards the Bucks, and the Bucks were getting some late fouls. Obviously, Giannis fouled out. And what did all the Mavs fans do when Giannis fouled out? They waved goodbye to him. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, that's like someone doing the belt when they sack Rodgers.
Yeah.
It was because the last time that happened, when they waved, it was the Knicks, and Grayson Allen hit the 3. But as soon as Giannis fouled out against the 3, Tim Hardaway Jr. missed 3 free throws. That would have, had he made all 3 of them, they would have been up 2, because they were only up or down 1 at that point.
Yeah.
And then 2 more from Dorian Finney-Smith. He misses both. That's 5 free throws in a row. And then that leads us to the end of the game.
And we're gonna bring up what happened at the end of the game right now.
So again, the inbound play from Brook.
Yep, here we go.
And I think the biggest thing to take away from that play is I didn't even notice it when it happened live. I noticed it when they showed the replay again. Um, Chris Middleton had the screen of the year on that play, holding because Kleber was on Brook Lopez, is my assumption based off of him obviously being the center. But
Yeah.
looking at the play of where Kleber was supposed to go, he got the biggest backdoor on Chris Middleton, um, which led Brook to be able to just swing right around and catch it. And that was the worst throw from George Hill. And I think out of all the people who could have got it, I think Brook and Giannis would have been the only people to finish that play. And I think a lot of people were like ripping on that throw from George, but
Yeah.
it's hard to get that throw from almost half court right to the hoop. For those who didn't see the play, like he threw it under the net and Brook caught it and swung it back up and laid it in, but
Yeah.
he was wide open because of that back cut by Chris Middleton. And as soon as the Bucks made that shot to go up by one, all I could say to myself, I was watching with my girlfriend, all I was saying is that the Bucks are going to lose by some dumb step back three from Luka, and I didn't want to get myself too excited because I knew what's happened in the past with Luka, and that's all I was thinking of. But that led to the end of the game with their horrible coaching staff with Jason Kidd and no one reading Luka at that point of him kind of. That's the only time I'll ever be fine with him complaining. He's a big complainer, and that's the only understanding I think I can get from him being on the team.
That whole inbounds play to me felt really weird.
Uh-huh.
It almost felt like Dallas wasn't ready. Like it felt like they didn't hear the whistle blown or anything because it just felt like whistle blew, thrown up to Brook, Brook lays it in. That
Yep.
way to me felt weird because first of all, I've never seen anybody on an inbounds play like I don't even know what Luka was doing. Like nobody has anybody asked that question. I've never seen anybody turn away from the defender and look at and look at the defenders. Like like why wasn't he facing George Hill? That's the first question I want to know.
Uh-huh.
What the heck is Luca doing? It made like for the easiest pass for George Hill.
Yep.
Like it's like usually when you see an inbounds play, usually a guy faces towards the inbound and he gets his hands up.
You're in their face. Like that's the whole point is to like distract them.
But why did and I think this was a coaching thing. Why did Jason Kidd have Luca face the basket? That's
As
what
if he's like guarding him.
that didn't make any sense. It just made for the easiest pass ever. Like and right now we're gonna get to the. It just made for the easiest pass ever. I didn't understand any of that. It felt like Dallas wasn't prepared for that play because that I feel like that's the first thing you do is you prepare for a lob to the basket. Like, and they weren't.
Uh-huh. And even if they did get that pass up with Luka in his face, it's one of those situations where it happened and it sucks. It was a good take, it was a good try because it has happened before. But if you don't have pressure, it makes it a lot easier for the team who's throwing the ball in.
And again, I'm not trying to coach Dallas either, but yeah, I know he hasn't been in all game, but you have JaVale McGee on the roster.
Uh-huh.
Like, bring him in for a minute.
You have plenty of guys who could have guarded that. And they didn't. Even Christian Wood could have done it.
Yeah, I mean, but I would coach Dallas, which
Nope.
brings me to
That's Jason Kidd's job to do.
That's Jason Kidd's job, which brings me to my the next play that I'm going to show, Luka's game-winning shot attempt.
My favorite part about this play is Brook and like what he was doing when he was like inbounding the play. Like he was like getting like all in their face. It was so funny because that's all I was looking at. I didn't even look at anything else. I just watched Brook the whole time.
Yep. So here's the play.
And as soon as he shot it and it was maybe like 20% there, I knew it was not going to be close. Because there are times we get the shot up and it's like, oh, like it could hit, it could swish, it could go off the bank and make it. but I don't know. It was halfway in the air. I'm like, that's an air ball or a brick, and it hit the other side of the rim. And it was defensively, it was good because they got him like I, measurement is very hard in the NBA
Yeah,
to like
yeah,
picture, but
exactly.
he was at least 5 or 6 feet behind the 3 point line on the corner. Because typically where they wanted him to be was maybe a pass in between the 3 point line and the 2 point area to get that
Uh,
step back and shot. But he got a step back shot from 5 or 6 feet outside of the 3 point line already. So they were able to close it down extremely well.
and we talked about this before the podcast. Was that so hoops breakdown?
Hmm. Figured
Hopefully,
it
I
out.
figured it out. So apparently, so it wasn't so much he figured it out. It's just some people on Twitter are like really good about picking up those sort of things.
Hmm.
So Luca, before the play even started, looked toward the bench and was basically like to and let me try that again.
Yeah.
So before the play started, Luca was looked toward the bench. He motioned to Christian Wood. Christian Wood wasn't looking,
Nope.
and he looked toward the bench because he was like, "These guys know exactly what we're gonna run."
Uh huh.
Do they know that? Because on the 2 game-winning attempts this year, they ran the same exact play.
Yep. I think it
Pin
was the
down
Thunder and
screen,
Pelicans.
uh, pin down screen for Luca. Luca's gonna go over the top, and he's
Hmm.
gonna shoot a step back three. Okay, and um, they did. That's exactly what they did. And,
Yep.
and look, Luca said, "I didn't want Drew Holiday to switch on me because despite him being small in stature, that guy."
He's our best defender. He can guard. He guarded Kevin Durant in Game 7 to force him the air ball. He's a good defender, no matter like the size that he is. He can guard almost anyone in the league.
And look, and that's why the play looked like a disaster. Like, I understand Luka can make those shots, okay, but it's a very low percentage shot.
Yes, it is not. He's hitting it 9 out of 10 times. He's hitting it once in a while. He'll hit it more if he's closer, but
Yeah,
I didn't even notice any of like what was going on because I was just so focused on watching like the ball, the inbound play where you don't really see that, but that guy did such a good breakdown because he figured that out. It was spot on. And I don't think anyone would have been able to figure out Chris Middleton talking to Drew and like to go here and move around, but it worked perfectly because Luca came right up and Drew was already there waiting for him, and it held him to a horrible shot.
but here's the play. Here's the other thing I want to talk about too.
Hmm.
So Brooke Lopez hits the game-winning shot. 7 seconds left.
Yep.
Jason Kidd decides not to use a timeout until Luca got stuck.
Yes.
Then he used a timeout. 2 seconds left. Look, I feel Luka Doncic's pain. Okay, because this is what the Bucks fans had to endure with Jason Kidd. Okay,
Hmm.
end of the game mismanagement constantly was the reason why Bucks lost so many games under Jason Kidd.
Yes.
Look, people want to think, well, Jason Kidd made a Western Conference Finals last year. Like, he's a good coach. I'm like, no, he's not. There's a lot of coaches who never change their stripes.
Hmm.
Okay? Him running the same exact plays as he did. Sorry, as Jason Kidd running the same exact plays as he did with Luka Doncic's three game winning attempts this year
Uh huh.
is the type of thing that frustrated the Bucks fans so much. Stale offense.
And it's what is weird is that you, no matter all the years you've been in the league, I don't know like how similar a play like the Bucks had when Jason Kidd was their coach, but you got to have more than one play because they've run that play 2 times and it hasn't worked. They haven't won on one that shot yet or that play yet. So I don't know. And now they're probably gonna have to figure it out because now everyone knows the play and everyone's gonna be able to defend that play if they're in that situation. Um, so I feel like now Jason Kidd's gonna have a little more pressure on him because people are now gonna know where Luke is gonna be going if he's set up like that because they're gonna be watching the film. Because I'm sure Middleton and Drew watch, or at least Middleton watched the film and he noticed that that was the play and it worked like perfectly. So I feel like now Jason Kidd has some more pressure on him to maybe figure out another late game offensive push because that was horrible.
He's just not a creative guy. It's just there's
No.
nothing that he does that was creative offensively. Like it's and that is gonna be the frustrating thing for Dallas Mavericks fans is the fact that they know Jason Kidd can't take them any farther. Like he is who he is. Like there's just so many better coaches than Jason Kidd in the league,
Hmm.
and he's definitely gonna waste um, Luka Doncic's prime years because there's no talent around him, and the offensive philosophy is stale.
Yes, and I think to want to keep Luca in Dallas or even want him to like want to stay, they have to get rid of Jason Kidd
They have to.
because it helped Giannis and it helped a lot of those other guys developing because yeah, and it was good because Giannis wasn't quite in his prime yet.
Yeah.
Before Budenholzer, like the year of Budenholzer was like the start of Giannis's prime, which I think is a good thing, obviously for Bucks fans. But I think if they don't give Luca help and they keep Jason Kidd, it's got to be like one or the other. You got to fire him and then get someone else, or you got to get him a lot more help and hope Jason Kidd can somewhat do something. But something needs to happen in order for Luka to stay. Because if you lose Luka Doncic, that will be one of the biggest losses in Mavericks history. He is a generational player, and he's 23 years old. And something needs to happen over there because watching that was atrocious. And I felt the frustration on him at the end, but I hate his complaining overall. But
I do.
I felt him on the end. I get it. It's frustrating.
I do too. I mean, Luca is starting to gain a reputation as a whiner
Yep.
because it's every call. Every
It's
call.
every call. Like he's
Every
not even on the half court on the next play because he's still complaining about that play. Like he got, the one on Grayson Allen where he put his shoulder and elbow into Grayson Allen
Oh,
and it
yeah.
was a no call. Like, and then he's complaining on other things like, dude, you're getting these freebies. You just elbowed and shouldered our guy to the ground and nothing was called. And it was annoying because they'd even called a blocking foul where the Bucks
Yeah.
could have like reviewed it. It was just nothing. I was like,
No.
dude, you
Um,
stop.
by the way, speaking of reviews, I don't like the new NBA rule where it's like, well, if you want to challenge it under the 2 minutes, if you want to challenge it under the 2 minutes, like you have to use your challenge. Or
Uh-huh.
we're not just gonna
Use
do
it
it
or lose
automatic.
it.
You're gonna. It's like, bro, how simple we try to make things for NBA refs.
Yep.
It's like, well, you have two challenges if you was it one or two?
They get one challenge. If you get it, you keep it. And if you don't, oh no, sorry, you only get the one challenge. I was thinking MLB. If you use it in the MLB, you get it back if you get it right. But the NBA is use it, you get it right, you get to keep it. Oh no, it's done. Oh my gosh, sorry, I keep like messing up. You get it, awesome. You keep the timeout, but if you don't get it, you lose a timeout. And I really hated how if you get it correct, I feel like you should get it back.
But
But you can use it up until a certain amount of time.
like it's dumb. Like those like that they shouldn't have got rid of that rule. Like under 2 minutes because there's a lot of like key plays and moments that
Exactly.
are
There
under
could be a
two
play with
minutes.
2 seconds left in the game, but they're no, you got to use it. Like you should use it
You gotta
then.
use your challenge.
Uh
Like
huh. But it's like it could be literally down to the last play of the game where you needed to use it, and it's. I'm sure it's annoying for coaches because you don't know when to use it, and some people want to use it on a certain play where they waste it in like the first quarter, and then they get to the end of the game where it's like, okay, well, you should use your challenge then.
too bad.
Yep. Sorry.
Evan, you got anything else?
I would say for the Mavericks, they do have Kemba. He's coming back pretty soon. Obviously, not that's going to be the biggest change, but they got another veteran guard. Bertans wasn't playing, and Bertans is a pretty decent shooter. I'm I'm a fan of Bertans, but I would say Mavericks fans were looking out for you. I think the whole country is looking out for you. Um, they're 13-12, and that's horrible for like who they have, and you know you're in our thoughts and prayers, Mavericks fans. We're here for you. We understand the pain the Bucks have gone through that same Jason Kidd BS for the longest time.
I know.
Good luck.
Well, what? Well, why would they get? So there was a story on that. So they did. You're right. They did sign Kemba Walker,
Hmm.
but then the general manager was like, "Well, we know one of his knees isn't good, so we're just basically letting him play until like it goes out or something like that."
That's so awesome to say. Mark Cuban would it have been? But
So
yeah,
I'm sitting there. And I'm like, so
maybe he
wait,
gets hurt.
you got a guy with a screwed up knee when there's like plenty of other good free agents out there.
Uh huh.
Um,
Cardiac Kemba.
cardiac, yeah, cardiac Kemba. But yeah, knocked off the Mavs 106 to 105. And look, they got a nice little matinee in today's
Yep.
game against the
Rockets
Warriors.
at 6 in
Yeah.
Houston. So yeah, so they got Rockets today at 6. Tuesday, the Warriors at home. I was gonna go to this game and I wanted to so bad, but I got to coach a basketball game.
Oh.
Um, so they play the Warriors at home on Tuesday, Thursday, Grizzlies away, and then we'll record Saturday morning, but it'll be another Saturday night game against the Jazz. So we got 4 games, 3 games this week, and then you have the one tonight as well. Looking at it, I think they can go at least 3-1. Obviously, the Warriors aren't doing as good as they were hoping this year, but they just beat the Celtics last night. They're beating some of the teams that they should be. So I think out of all the teams, I think the Warriors game will be their toughest one. As long as they can hold Curry and Clay to a little less shooting, I think they have a pretty good chance if everyone's playing well for the Bucks. I could say at least a 3-1 week for them.
Yeah, I could see. Yeah, I could see that too.
Having it at home, I think, will be a little beneficial for them too with the crowd.
Yeah, yeah, and the only loss I could see that week coming against the Grizzlies,
Yep.
just that has a really good young team, and former Bucks assistant coach Taylor Jenkins running the show over there in Memphis. So, guys, thank you for tuning in for the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast, and we'll see you next week.